Hi Year 6, welcome to your second literacy lesson this week. The focus today is going to be on inference within reading. The reason we are looking at inference is because it's really important that we recognise clues and hints that we're given by authors within texts. I thought that this is a good one to do because it'll really help us when we start writing our narratives, thinking about what we can do as authors, similar to what Vashti Hardy's done in the book that we are going to start reading, which was a recommendation of Pi Corbett. So, of our Drive Eden Park model, we are working on inference. And we're going to start reading Brightstorm by Vashti Hardy. We'll pick up snippets here and there. So today's challenge, first of all, is that you need to read chapter 1 of Brightstorm. So you can pause that here and start reading. Right, so hopefully you've read chapter 1. Now we're going to talk to you about the objectives. So these are the objectives for this week. Inference comes in 2 different forms. Learning objective 1 is explaining and discussing your understanding of what you've read, drawing inferences and justifying these with evidence. Learning objective 2, drawing inferences about a character's feelings, thoughts, motives and character, supporting their view with evidence from the text. Please notice this important word here, evidence. They're always referring to evidence from the text. So it's really, really important that we're always referring to the text to justify our answers. What is inference? Right, so inference means that you pick up ideas from the text that are not always written in the text itself. You do this by being a detective. So you're not looking for what is there, you're looking for what is meant by it. What are they implying? So the example given is if the text says Jenny's face was red, she wrinkled her brow and began to shout, what could you infer about how Jenny feels? What do you think? Hopefully you think that from that you can tell if she's red, she's wrinkled her brow and she's beginning to shout, that she's cross or she's angry. So that's you using your inference skills. So you're thinking about not what's said directly, but what's implied by it. Right, so when tackling inference question styles, we want you to use PE as a strategy, particularly for 3-mark questions. But it's important that you just think about what point and evidence means. So PE stands for point and evidence. So we advise that you, particularly for 3-mark questions, you use PE. This shouldn't come as a massive shock to you. This is a recap of what we already know, but because we haven't done it in so long, it's really important that we remember this skill. And all the time we should be thinking, how has the author indicated this to us? What has the author implied by what the language that they've used, the vocabulary choices that they've made, and the hints that they're giving the reader? Because that's what you need to do as a writer. So your point, it might be a character trait. Okay, here are character traits. So it could be that your character is bossy, shy, adventurous, or kind. It could be a mood or emotion. The point, it might say, how is a character feeling? So therefore you need a mood or emotion. So it might be sad, angry, or jealous. Or it could be an adjective to describe a thing. So what impression do you get of the house? So it could be that the house is really old, or it's really unloved, or it could be about a board game being really old, or a piece of jewelry being really precious. It might say something where you've got to make a point about a thing. So then the evidence, you put in quotation marks and you take it directly from the text. And then you repeat that process with the point and evidence next. So when you have a question that says 3 marks, you need to do this twice. If you do this twice, it means you'll get 3 marks, as long as you get the correct points. Even if you got 1 wrong, you would still get 2 marks if you got 1 pair right. Okay, so it's a really good strategy. Right, first of all, what's an impression? We've spoken about this before. Try and answer that now. Pause this here. What's an impression? Okay, so different synonyms for the word impression is, if you were asked about an impression of a person, it's a feeling that you get about that person or a sense that you get about that person, okay? So synonyms obviously are words that mean the same, okay? Or similar words with similar meanings. So what is an impression? It's an idea, feeling, or opinion about something or someone, especially one formed without conscious thought or on the basis of little evidence. So it's just a feeling that you get or an opinion about someone or something. What's your impression of these boys? So these boys here. Have a think. What's your impression? Pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you think that these boys are cruel. So the point that I'm making is that they are cruel or unkind. Then the evidence that you've got is that they are taunting or making fun of the boy who is clearly upset. Okay, so they're cruel, and the evidence from this image is that they're making fun of the boy who's clearly upset. Right, what's your impression of this child here? Try and use point and evidence. So say your point and then justify it with your evidence. So what is your impression? What's your feeling and your sense about this child? Okay, point, evidence. I would say this child is kind. The evidence is that they are comforting the girl who is looking upset. So the girl's looking upset and that child is comforting the girl. You might have said because they're hugging them, trying to make them happy. They are all pieces of evidence. You've got your point and your evidence. Okay, what's your impression of this bear? Okay, I've done a similar activity to this before. So what do you think? It's got its eye missing. It looks a bit manky. It looks a bit mottled, the fur, and it's currently in a bed. So what sort of bed do you think that bear would be in and why? Okay, so what's your impression of this bear? Although he is old, has lost an eye and is a bit worn, he's been tucked in by his owner whilst they are at school. Therefore, he is well loved and cared for. It's that idea behind lots of you will have really precious bears or toys that you've had for a really long time, and most often they've been really worn out. The reason why that bear or that toy is worn out is because you've loved it that much. And it's the same with this bear. So it's thinking about the fact, the points are that he's well loved and cared for, and the evidence is he's still in this bed in pride position in this room, even though he's a bit manky and he's a bit broken. So the impression is that he is well loved and cared for. Okay, you've seen this before. So it's a question in a SATs paper, and what it asks you to do is say the impression that you get of our character Maria. So, come on, Maria said impatiently. Oliver rowed while Maria stood barefoot in the boat, staring straight ahead. The oars made a click-clack sound in the hush and haze of the summer afternoon. Ripples of water fanned out behind them as they crossed the glassy surface of the lake. Right, can you please think? Your point is here. What point can you make about your impression of Maria from this? And what evidence can you use to justify your answer? So it's a character trait because your impression of Maria is going to be a character trait. Is she kind? Is she helpful? Is she adventurous? Think of those sorts of words. Okay. Possible answers. So what I've done is I've highlighted in the text what I think are the important parts. So said impatiently, Maria stood barefoot in the boat staring straight ahead. So my impression of Maria is that she is bossy. Come on, Maria said impatiently. So her character trait is that she's a bossy person. And the evidence that I've used directly from the text is because it says, come on, Maria said impatiently. And it's her being impatient means that she's being bossy. Similarly, you can have determined. She's got a determined character because of this piece of evidence. Maria stood barefoot in the boat, staring straight ahead. What you need to be thinking is, why has the author told you that information? It's to give you an idea of her character. Okay. I was going to get you to do that, but I'm not going to now. So I want you to think, what is an impression? That's the aim of today's session. What's an impression of somebody's character, or how is somebody feeling? How would you answer those questions? What strategy can you use to get the most marks when answering those types of questions? What you are going to do now, so you've read chapter 1 of Brightstorm, you have got some questions to answer on chapter 1. They are inference questions. All the time that you're doing this, I want you to be thinking, why has the author used that word? Why has the author told us this? Every single word counts in a novel. That's what we keep saying. That's what Pi Corbett keeps telling us. Every single word counts. Why has the author used the words that they have in this skyship adventure? The reason why we're doing Brightstorm is because it can give us lots and lots of ideas about our writing. So as you're reading, if you want to make notes of great things that you read as that you can maybe use and magpie ideas from in your own for your own novel, then you can do that, because on Thursday's session we're going to be starting to write. After Thursday's session we're going to start to write our own skyship adventure, and you've just read chapter 1, which is the build up to Arthur and Mordy's skyship adventure. So if you read anything that you love, then note it down. Okay, please submit the worksheet with your answers. Don't forget to use PE. I will write in the marking column, you have not used PE. And I want evidence from the text. Don't just write a point without evidence. You have to use evidence. It's really, really important. So please make a start with that.